All right, Paul, what's your running story? How did you get into it?
So I was not very good at sports growing up, and it's funny because I played sports growing up. I was a baseball player, played a little bit of soccer, and my dad was actually the coach of our baseball team. And unfortunately, I was not very good. So, I realized that I wasn't very coordinated and I wasn't very courageous, and so I really didn't have like an athlete's mentality at all. So I got to high school, and my parents, have bless their heart, have always been very supportive. Like, you need to kind of do something. And I was 99 pounds and 4'11" when I went into high
Oh
school.
my goodness.
I was a tiny
Little
being.
thing.
I was a tiny human being, and think of it as like, I want to play football. I was like, I don't think that's going to happen. And I could wrestle, but then the whole me being a coward thing was in the way as well. So they like to say that I joined the one sport that they legally cannot cut you from, which is cross country. And so this was in sixth grade. I did the summer running, and I did the first race, which was I believe 1.5 or 1.7 mile race, and I quit halfway. And I said I had an asthma attack because I did have asthma, which is, and to this day, I still do have asthma, but I totally milked that. I was like, oh, my asthma really flared up there. And I had to just, I had to throw in the towel. I really just quit because it was hard.
Yeah.
And so, and that was not the only race that I did not finish. There were actually two. And I remember this is, it's a very, high school movie-ish thing. They put it up on the board at school, everyone's time for everyone to see, and then you see DNF. And that was my very first DNF. At 12 years old. So, and I was teased and bullied over it. So I actually I started running training by myself, and seventh and eighth grade, I ended up, I started running. We had to run the mile in gym class, and I managed to run like a 5:30 mile. And my gym teacher was like, "Hey, you might want to think about running." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was running like 5:20 miles at that point, so it was it was pretty clear, that this was the trajectory. So I was a 5K runner in high school. Our team really was, we were not very good for a very long time, but we had some really, really strong runners, and I managed to be our fifth or sixth man on varsity. And we ended up going to state for the last 2 years. And it was just like Cinderella story. We were 25th the first year. That was my junior, and then my senior year we actually placed seventh. And this was back in the day when York and the sea of green and all the very strong runners, all these sub 15-minute 5K runners. But I was okay. I was like 100th in the state. I wasn't elite, but I was good. I was probably down to like a 15:40. 5K was my personal best. And I ran like a 4:50 mile, my first mile at state. So I was also 100. I was 130 pounds. I was a little bit lighter.
Still a little guy.
Still a guy. And then I abandoned running at age 18 because I wanted to, be a rebel and do rebellious things. And anyway, fast forward to my 20s, I still am not running. I picked up weightlifting as a hobby. I started competing in powerlifting with some friends. So it's basically how much you can squat, bench press, and deadlift. And it was a lot of fun. And of course, I ate a lot of food and gained a lot of weight and got up to about 205 pounds. And for those who don't know, I am still not a very tall person. I'm like 5'7" on a good day with the right shoes. So that at that point I realized this is not how I wanted to feel. I didn't feel good. I was strong, but it was not something I wanted to do. So I still didn't run, and I basically didn't run for 20 years after my my running history. And a bunch of my friends in running, they stuck with it. Some of them, one in particular, he ran these sky races. He qualified for Olympic trials and some. I had some friends that qualified for Boston and went on to run, sub 3 hour marathons. And then it was just me, just kind of like, hemming and hawing, not doing anything. So it wasn't until about 2 years ago when, guess what? We had COVID and, cue the existential crisis. We're in the house a lot, clearly not in good shape. I decided to try a little bit of running, and I just went out for a couple runs. I signed up for the Hoka half marathon in Chicago, and I trained for about 6 weeks, and I did my little like long run one day, and of course it's like every run's a hard run because that's how we trained back in the day. It's like, oh, if I'm not like thresholding, then I must not be working, So did that, and I started this race, and I ended up doing okay. I ran like a 142. And I ended up I stopped at like mile 2, which is this funny thing, because I put this whole thing on social media, like, I'm back into running and like my redemption story, and all this. And at mile 2, I had to stop because my calf tightened up, and I'm on the side of the road hobbling, like, and people are probably like, what's wrong with this guy? He's so inspiring. He's out there despite his, but I just was like, oh my God, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit again. Here I am. This is like 6th grade all over again, and I'm quitting, right. And so I kind of just stuck with it and just pressed through. And then, as my mom and dad come to all my races. So mom and dad are there at the finish line. And then I realized I can't walk. I'm like, oh God. So it took me like a week to recover from that. And I thought, this is good. I remember this. This feels right. I wonder what else is out there. I'll look for races, and I looked for races near me. And
love that term.
I was just like, just cast the wide net out there. And I found something called the Childish Nonsense 50 miler. And I said, 50 miles, how hard? That doesn't seem so bad. Just keep going, right? I mean, you just keep going, right? That's like, in my mind, yes. For all those listening to the podcast, I am in the future with you right now. I recognize just how insanely dumb.
So dumb, Paul.
The thing that I just said. But I said, okay, take my money. And I was reading about cuffs. I'm like, oh, this seems all right. And so I started training for this. And I live, off North Avenue, for those who are familiar with the area. I forgot about the trails. This is during the winter. So I would run down North Avenue from like Glen Ellen to like St. Charles on the shoulder during the winter, with like 2 pairs of pants and a coat and a face mask and all that. And oh, this is terrible, but this is whatever, right? And I would run twice a week. I run Saturday and Sunday. Just too long runs. Like I'd do like, all right, I'll do 20 miles a day, and I would be gunning these runs. I'd be like, oh, I need to hit this 20 miler this time, or else I'm a big failure. And for those of us who pilot, I know how dumb this sounds right now. So I think I worked up to top 40 miles a week, and I was very happy with those back-to-back 20s. Like, I'm ready for this. I think I can do this thing in about 8:30, and that's of course when I got to meet you and everybody, and again, everyone's super nice. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is like very like chill environment. Everyone is just chatting it up. It's not like a like a road race where everybody's just kind of looking around aimlessly, like just anxious. People are talking, people are like laughing, like, oh, okay. And of course, start the cowbell, and the race begins. And I think I was off in the bushes peeing, so of course I missed the start. So I was like, okay. So I missed, of course, in good fashion. I start, and I catch up with this one person, and we're just talking, and he's listening. I'm talking more. He's being very respectful. And at about the 4th loop, we stop and we get our gels and water, and he's ready to go, and I'm not. I thought, okay. And that's when I realized what I had done. And of course, I went out way too hard. I thought, and I spent a fair amount of that race in the cave, as Cordy puts it, and not getting out. So long story short, finished that. And that was the year that we had the tornado and of course
Yep.
the
I
flooding.
know. So good.
And it was great. So I finished. And at that point, everyone's crouched underneath the tent because the rain's coming down so hard. And I remember you like, "You're officially an ultra marathoner." It's like, okay, great. And then I just got back in my car and ate potato chips for half an hour. So that was
Oh my gosh. I'm dying. Wait, how long was it between the Hoka Have to Childish?
that was in September, October, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. So like
So six
5,
months.
6 months. Okay.
Yeah, 6 months.
And then you
So
didn't do any trail running to train.
much sense, right? Just run on the shoulder of North Avenue with the semis blaring by you, and or some other street, like side streets where there's like literally a foot and a half of shoulder.
Yeah.
And then the cars, you have to love like the people that really have a disdain for runners. Are like, "I'm going to teach this guy a lesson."
Yeah. Oh gosh, they like swerve.
Road is for driving, and they'll wait till they're right behind you and they'll land the horn and they flicking off and all kind of. When it's like 2 degrees out too, so not only am I freezing, but now I'm terrified. Because
Yeah.
So
I'm just like dying here. Like, I'm sure because at Childish, your parents were there. I very much remember your parents, but I remember it being your first ultra, but I definitely do not remember. You basically have gone from 0 to ultra in such a short time period, and then not even having hit a trail that whole time.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, that's before the race when it actually thawed out. I did go to Palatine.
Okay.
And I remember I ran like a 10 miler like the week before, and I thought, I had that moment of clarity. I'm like, I've made a horrible mistake.
Okay.
Like this kind of thing. And it's not this slow, this evenly sloped from that race, Allie. And you guys put on that makes it, despite all the crap that you go through, and that's as the most. So I had this like just immense feeling of pride, like, oh my God, I did it. But then I thought, like, wait a minute, didn't you want to do this like in 8:30? Like, and of course I was much longer than that. And so I started reading about this. I'm like, hey, you might actually want to run on trails. You might actually want to run more than twice a week. You actually want to, pay attention. Hydration and your salt and your gear and all these things. And so better. I managed to.
Hold up, your audio is cutting out. I can't hear you. Where did it go? A little bit. Yeah, take those out. Are they causing the problem? Maybe. Where is Paul?
How about now?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I got you.
Sorry. So,
Oh, you're fine.
So yeah, that's kind of the theme here is like 0 to 100 with, don't even think about it, just kind of do. So Q2 Des Plaines, as I'm signing up for Des Plaines, I think, okay, I'm going to do this again. And then 3 months into training for Des Plaines, I sign up for the Tunnel Hill 100. This is just the theme with me. It's like let's ready, fire, aim on everything. Which is funny because I'm a project manager and a business analyst in my professional life, and so I have zero planning apparently in my personal life. So I did DPRT. It went a lot better. Actually trained more than twice a week. Actually ran trails, paid attention to nutrition, and I was very happy with that. And then 4 weeks later was Tunnel Hill. And actually, I remember seeing you guys 2 weeks later at Fancy Nonsense,
Yeah.
which was a lot of fun. And I remember asking you, about it, and you're like, just hang on. And you said something to me that I tell people periodically,
shit.
and it resonates. Yeah, it's that, I am by no means an expert at this, but it's when you're running 100, when you're running that long, you have to find some kind of joy in something, or else it's like fixating on everything that can go wrong or everything that is going wrong is just a recipe for disaster. So find some morsel of joy in this. It could be where you're running. It could be who you're running with. It could be a funny joke that you're just, you're fixating on. And that has gotten me through a lot of very challenging training runs too, but also, my most recent one, which was the Kettle Moraine 100, which I did last month.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's, so anyway, that's the trajectory is DPRT, felt good, went into tunnel. Of course, tunnel, as you know.
That was the year it snowed, right? Did it snow really bad that year?
It was supposed to be 35 to 55, yes. And of course, we woke up that morning with 3 inches of fresh powder on the ground. And that was the year that Camille was going to try and break the 50.
Yeah, and she was like, nope.
And it's just like pretty icy out there. I don't think this is going to, I don't think so. So, and of course, I had my shorts, I had my zip up, I had hat and gloves. And I said, I'll be fine. I run hot. I'll be fine. Famous last words. So with, the first 50, felt great, got to the first 50, it was making friends, and then it kind of dawns on you that all those crowds, all that, excitement on the back half is just gone. And so you're out there by yourself, and around 50, 70, things started not working as well, and you get really cold. And I was so cold by about 90, I was stopped at the aid stations like a lizard up against like the heating, the gas lamps. Yeah. Like, I don't want to leave. But I remember, eventually I finished, and I was relatively happy with how I did. I wanted to do better, but I stopped and I saw Durbin, the race director, and I said, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. And he said, all right, great, see you next year.
That's very on brand for Steve.
They're very on brand, yeah. And I, of course, I just, so I realized, like, it was a very quick trajectory to get to where I got. And that's kind of how I've approached my training is like, and I remember one of your previous guests talked about, I think it was Jason talked about the Icarus approach, like how hard can I push this until I break? And that's kind of how I am with my training. I'm learning to kind of, pull the reins back a little bit, but that's something I'm learning to balance a lot with the ultra mindset. It's like, yeah, I want to push, I want to try very hard, but also you have to love this at the same time. And I think that's what, Courtney, like, is so inspiring about Courtney is like, you watch, Courtney DeWalter run, and she's just so kind. And so, she has this like sense of wonder. She's kicking major ass the entire time.
It's insane.
She's so good, but at the same time, she is so kind to everybody and so encouraging. And that's really what keeps me so like inspired. And when I'm running, and especially when I'm running with Kettle, like the number one rule I was talking to one of our other runners who was running with us, like, just be nice to the volunteers. Even if you're having the worst day of your life and you're all you can think about is all the terrible things, just be nice to these people that are out in the middle of the woods at 2 a.m. pouring you a nice cup of coffee or ramen or giving you a sandwich, because these people are saints, and they really make everything work. So that's that was a very roundabout way of saying like I got here. But yeah, I just finished Kettle, and that was the new hardest thing. That was Michelle puts on just an outstanding race. And
yeah, she does.
I said, thank you so much. So, this is an incredible race. So next year we should get some more rocks, because I don't think there are enough rocks in the Kettle Moraine Forest. So,
yeah, just a few more, just to mix it up a little.
So yeah, but that's currently where I'm at. I have a couple of races. Of course, we have our Timely Nonsense coming up in a few months. I'm very excited for that. We're doing the 12-hour.
Nice.
Yes.
Because you've only volunteered at that one, right?
I volunteered last year, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and watching Kevin just absolutely crush it
Mhm.
is he was definitely one of the most inspiring runners for me as I started this, because I remember he lapped me at
Yeah.
Childish the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
one,
yeah.
and I was like, hey, good job, man. It's like, yeah, you too. I was like, man, I want to be like
I know. He's so
that.
brilliant. He's so brilliant. Like, he's just in his zone
Yeah,
the whole time. And what I think so interesting, especially around the group of other runners that you've started, associating yourself with more, is you guys are all so really like intensely competitive within yourselves. Like, you guys are
yeah,
intense runners. You were front of the pack runners, but you wouldn't know that from like talking to you guys just whenever, like you, Alessandra, Oliver, Kevin. Like, if anybody just met you, they would not have any sense
yeah,
of how intensely competitive you guys get. Like, it is intense how competitive you guys get just with yourselves.
yeah.
That's like, even at Samosa Stumble, I left and I was like, it's going to be my guys at the end. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I was like, you guys can talk all you want, but my guys will be at the end, and they seem really joyful, and they're going to,
Yeah.
no one's even going to suspect them, but they are effing competitive, even in the stupidest competition of eating a samosa and running every 1.1 miles. You all are so intensely competitive with yourself. So, like,
Yeah.
are you that competitive within yourself in other aspects of your life, or is it just this aspect of your life?
So I still don't know how well I feel about being so good at the samosa stumble. I mean, and kudos to Oliver too, because that was something. To answer your question, yeah, I think that's just so I always I think that's something that I really love the most about the ultra community, is that you see some of these front of the pack runners who are just kind and earnest people. Like, everybody wants you to finish and to do great. Even though they're going to be racing you for hours and even days, I mean, they're still going to get to know them and to be friends with them. And so I think that's really what I think is one of the greatest things about that. And then I appreciate you bringing that up, because yeah, that's what I want to encourage in the sport, is just being kind no matter where you are in the race. Like it and so thank you. But yeah, I think that's kind of how I was with running in high school. I mean, I remember every race, I would become violently ill in the middle of the race, and to the point where it was really gross. I mean, at the end of a cross country, I don't know, for those who ran cross country, I mean, they kind of, you finish and then you end up in this little chute, like this little like single lane thing, and everyone just has their hands on the person in front of them, and they're just keeled over, and and huffing and puffing. And I mean, it was, so I think I had that instilled on me early on, that you go out there and you give it all you got. Now obviously with ultras it's a much different approach, but I a few years ago I had a really challenging moment in my life and my career, and things were not going great, and I had some strained relationships, and I was just not where I wanted to be, and I felt very weak. I felt helpless, and I wanted to, and I think about that now, not just running, but I want to be, it sounds really cliche, but I do. I want to be the best version of myself, and that I've had old high school friends reach out to me, in the last few years, like, hey man, like I see you like doing this running thing, and it kind of inspired me to start. And like, it's like I haven't talked to this person in like 18 years, and it's like, and the fact that like my own mother, like, at 69 years old, decided she wanted to run her first 5K because
Shut up. I love that for her.
yeah, and and my girlfriend wanting to run her first 10K, and like people, like when people tell you that you are inspiring them and that they appreciate what you do, it really resonates with you. And then this doesn't mean like I have to be better every single race, but I try to to respect the race for what it is. And these kettle was arguably the hardest thing I ever did, and before that Tunnel Hill was the hardest thing I ever did, and before that Challenge Notches was the hardest thing I ever did. So it's just like every year it's like, can we do something that that makes us uncomfortable because, you know, in the pursuit of self-improvement, you know, we have to kind of be in that gray area where it isn't this, you know, crystal stair of progress. It's like it's, and so I think in turn, yeah, I mean, I can be very hard on myself, you know, in terms of being, you know, competitive against myself, but it it would never come out, you know, externally. It isn't like I need to beat this person, I need to beat this person, because, you know, at the end of the day, like these are my friends, and I want them to do the best that they can. And so I was a rambled response, but
no, I love it. I love it. I love what you said. Just like you're just doing something in your mind, right? And in my mind too. Like we're having a parallel here of like where you're just doing something that like is important to you, and you feel like this is just important to me to be running, and I'm motivated to go run these long distance and do these races. But you put it out there in front of other people, and not realizing you doing it makes it seem more real and that somebody else could achieve it, right? And then you're inspiring people, which is so weird, right? For someone to say that you inspired them. It's strange. It's a strange feeling. But then like you almost have this responsibility. You're like, oh shit, I'm like responsible for this other person getting into running. Like I can't really like ditch out now, you know, like if I just decided, like, you know what, fuck running, I'm going to get out of it. But try and never do, because I love running. But if I did, I'd be like, oh, like all these people that would be impacted by me leaving a sport. And I'm a tiny microcosm in this, but the same for you. And it's nice to see like such a very obvious, like positive impact that you're putting out into the world. And then that motivates you more, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of motivating you more, like, what are you training for now? What are you, and you've run 200 milers, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to go further? Are you going to go faster?
Well, so this was a fun year because I actually had to do my first 50K. And so I still haven't run a marathon yet. I mean,
I love that. Yeah.
I've done some training, but I did my first 50K. That was Bill Tom's race, you know, the Paleozoic.
Yeah.
Nicest guy in the world, too. And of course, that was the day it was like -12.
Yeah, it was really cold. Yeah.
And I got to run with Jason Sakura, and I tell you, he is. I know you had him on the podcast, and just listen to him. He is, besides being an incredible runner, I mean, like, and the fact that he's just like, oh, I just wanted to kind of like, you know,
he's one of those like competitive within himself, and you would never know it. Yeah,
he's like, I just want to get in shape, you know, feel better. Of course, now he's this you know, this incredible runner, and he's just a stand-up human being as well. He definitely inspires me. And the same with Kevin. I actually got to run with him, you know, during that race and talk with him and get to know him, and he ended up pacing me in the last 38 of the Kettle Moraine 100. And you know, I put that in an Instagram post and a Strava post, but he was, again, being with someone in the latter half, as you know, like when the mind tends to go, he was just such a stand-up guy. So I wanted to just give him a special shout out. That and my friend Bob Henn, who also paced me. But so I did my first 50K, and I got to run with him. And that was really exciting because I got to go a little speedier. So coming up is Timely, and you know, I would love to do really well at Timely. I think I have a specific goal in mind, but you know, there's gonna be some tough competition there. So I would really like to.
It's gonna be cooler this year. Like usually it's hot. Usually it's really hot, but where I moved it back for a myriad of reasons, but where I've moved it back, I think the course record could fall this year of the 62 miles. It's definitely doable.
Was it 64?
I think it's 62.56. Maybe it's 64.56. Okay. It's definitely something 0.56. Because I was taunting, I think, Oliver with it the other day via text.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, he's like looking strong too. Like we have a lot of really great strong runners, and it's just exciting because that's definitely on the horizon. And then I have tunnel again. So cool. Last year I ended up around 21. 20 something, I believe, for the 100, and so I'd like to break 20. I would like to get that slightly larger buckle with the sub 20 on there. So that's my current goal. But to answer your question a few minutes ago about going longer, I think to my girlfriend's chagrin. The idea of doing like a 200 is really exciting. To doing
Yeah.
like a journey run, something that is, several days is very exciting to me. Because I just feel like that's where I excel. I'm not, I have friends who are marathon runners and they're very fast. I mean, they just go
Yeah.
out and I'm like, oh, very uncomfortable. So I tend to, if I can get settled in, and I think we talked about this, it's like you get that one pace, that like all day pace, and you can
Hmm.
kind of just like, I'm gonna check out now and just enjoy the scenery and go. And that's kind of where I think I excel. And so a 200 in the future would be very exciting, like Cocodona, the 250. So that is a pipe dream of mine. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a lot more 200 milers, like to even pop up as events,
Yeah.
because it's like there's a million 100 milers now, which is crazy because 10
I
years ago
know.
there was not. And now there's, I think, one like almost every single weekend in the United States, if not multiple ones happening. But now, like the 200 milers really coming up as this distance, which just cracks
Yeah.
me up because I'm like, guys, it's like you
It's
going
so
like, oh,
far.
it's the progression of like, oh, I ran a 50 miler, I'm going to do a 100 miler next, and I'm always like, but it is double the distance. It
So
is
far.
double the distance. And so I'm going to run a 100 miler. Oh yeah, I'm going to do 200 next, and every time I'm just like, it's double the distance. But there's no, like, people don't run a lot of 100Ks going from 50 to 100, and then
Yeah.
like there's nothing between. There's maybe a handful of 150 milers, but is now 100 to 200. So, okay, Paul, what is it about the long distance? Because I mean, you've skipped over the 50K, you're not into 50Ks clearly. So like, what is it about the super long distance that you're attracted to?
Well, I mean, 50Ks are pretty cool. I mean, that
They
was
are. I love a 50K.
that
I
was
love
a
a
fun race.
50K.
It was a really fun race. It's so. I think what did Craig, Craig Woods put it,
Mhm.
I were talking one time about it, and it's like, it's a cool thing because you get to put yourself down into this space and you bring yourself out of it slowly.
Yeah.
And of course, and it's like you go back down, and I think it for me, it's, you know, I think I alluded to this earlier. A few years ago, it was a really challenging point in my life. It was,
Mhm.
professionally, I almost lost my job. I was not the best son, uncle, friend,
Mhm.
colleague that I could have been, and um, I got very complacent. I was just in a rut, and on paper, life was great. It's like I just purchased my home. I had this good position. I was doing really well for a while at work, but I was just stuck. And the it started with childish
Mhm.
because it was this moment where I just had a break. I had a break emotionally, in which like I was so frustrated with like how it was going. I was like, something's wrong. It was like my around 30, like my legs
Yeah.
tightened up, and I was like, there's something wrong. Like you're out of water and salt, and you've been running for you know 7 hours. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong. It's like, and so having the time with yourself, and I don't run with headphones anymore. I got to a point I needed them for a while, but now it's like every run is just like time for me to work through, challenges that I have, like professionally and personally, and I feel like I need those, um, these long efforts to just to clear my mind and to allow me to get through, what's really weighing me down, and to do something hard. I mean, because like I have a tendency to, after like in all seriousness, after kettle, I fell into like a deep funk. I
Mhm.
was like, okay, now what? Like, you did it, you did what you wanted. Now what? And it's like, and I didn't want to run. I
Yeah.
didn't want to do anything. And it's like, and so, not saying like I need something on the calendar to keep my spirits up, but I think we grow when we do really challenging things. And for me, right now, that's the 100. You know, I'll go through many ebbs and flows. At kettle around 40, I think I was ready to quit. I mean, I wanted to stop so bad. My heart rate was around like 197.
Oh shit.
I'm 38 years old. That shouldn't
Yeah,
happen.
that's crazy.
So I thought, I was, but I feel like I grow from that. And I'm not saying this is, I'm not instructing folks to just like sign up for the next 100 and go grow emotionally, out there. Like, you do what you need to do. That might be like for some people, that might just be like, I'm going to get up and run 3 times this week, no matter what. I'm gonna get out the door. I'm gonna get that 5K done. I'm gonna get that 10K, or I'm gonna actually get the marathon checked off. Like, and I think that that's what really drives me is the knowing now that I've got a couple under my belt. I feel like I really benefit a lot from the 100. And
Yeah,
so
I like that what Craig said about like you're putting yourself in the hard place.
yeah,
Then you have to get yourself out of it. And it's very much like, we're creating the problem. We are creating the problem, right? And I always say to people, like, I can talk anybody into being a runner, anybody into being just a runner.
Yeah.
I cannot talk anyone into being an ultra runner. You either want to do this really dumb thing or you don't want to do, and that's okay. That's okay. And the best way I've ever heard it phrased was Becca Joyner, who's a very great runner, who said, we ultra runners put themselves in uncomfortable situations so that they know in the real world, in their real lives, when they experience discomfort and challenges, that they can get through it. And I think that's a common thread through every ultra runner that I know, right? And there is, if you talk to an ultra runner, like there's this commonality thread that not we're all like running from something, but we all want to continue to challenge ourselves in this way for whatever reason that it is. Yeah. And if you lose that sense of wanting to challenge yourself, you just go back to being a runner, or you stop being an ultra runner. But like, if you can just keep moving forward and not, always having a race on the calendar is helpful, but always like micro goals, right? Of like, whatever it may be, like trying to hit a new trail system or going and running somewhere totally different, right? Yeah. But always having a goal, because it is that sense of like, you don't have a goal. What am I doing? I'm just becoming stagnant. Sure. And it's whatever. It's whatever.
I like that what you said earlier too about like, it's encouraging people to run, and then like, the whole like my friend's running Badger in 2 weeks, my buddy Bob, and we were talking strategy, and I had the privilege to go up and pace him, and his brother was on the call, and his brother's I don't believe is an ultra runner. He's like, and he's asking these questions. I'm like, well, what are you gonna do with this? I'm like, well, just we're gonna deal with it, like when it happens. Just kind of, and it's like, I mean, long story short, what we're doing is really dumb. We start laughing. It's like, this is so dumb. But it has done wonders for me personally and professionally. I mean, my colleagues, of course, everyone's like, what are you going to run to Wisconsin this weekend? They of course, you get the sly comments, but my chiefs will stop me and be like, did you run 100 miles? It's like, yeah, and they want to know, because they think this is like some, secret to, like unlocking the, what's the term for this, like, incredible worker. It's like, no, it's just, my friends are there and there were really good snacks. It's like, I'm just kind of like,
there were really good snacks.
We have the best snacks. Like the marathon runners, you got Gatorade and gel. Like we have like, quesadillas and French toast. A bowl full of M&Ms everyone touches. It's great.
It's so gross. Oh God, yeah, it's so gross. But I have yet to, in my own aid station, switch back to the bowl of M&Ms and the bowl of chips, that I was used to, just because I'm like, oh, but it's still kind of gross. And you guys are gross, and you're sweaty, and you're disgusting. But I've seen a lot of people switching back to that like giant bowl of stuff, and I'm like, oh God, maybe we're immune to stuff. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I also, again, like it really is about the people. Like I had a volunteer at Kettle. I had these hysterical salt stains. I had this like dark maroon shirt, and of course, like the volunteers see people like, "Are you okay?" Like, yeah, I just
salty.
It's salty. And this one volunteer came up to me. She like opened the jar. She's like, "You're taking these now." She gave me 2 salt tabs. I was like, "Yes, ma'am."
You're like, is it that obvious? What's happening here to me?
but that's really like what it is. It's like you might know these people for 5 minutes, and they have this compassion for you because, I mean, they assume that you're just as cool as there, but also that they are, they know what you're going through. And this is not to, disparage like marathon runners or short race runners, but the energy is so intense. There's not a lot of time to, obviously to talk or to like have, like a moment to plan. It's really just like boom, 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 and they go on. But with ultra running, you stop and you really get to know people on like such a great level. And they're people that I've met during races that, I consider really good friends, even though I only see them in races now and we just keep up on, Strava and texting. But, you have this emotional connection through this, this, I'm going to say suffering, but this enduring. And I don't think I can ever not do this now because of what it's done for me emotionally. Like I mentioned before, professionally, I feel like it makes me a stronger, a better worker. But emotionally and personally, it's brought me out of somewhere that I didn't think I could get out. And of course, as somebody who has struggled with depression and anxiety my entire life, I could not go without it. And I'm not saying like running is my therapy. Running is running, and therapy is therapy. Like, y'all need therapy. I mean, let's be real. Like, but yes, like do the thing that brings you joy, and that's where I'm adamant that I will be doing this as long as I can. And that's where that drive comes from. It's like, yeah, maybe if I could shave off a couple minutes here and there, or maybe I can go try a new race or a new trail system, or build in like a new style of train that's going to like make me feel better. So I'm honored and privileged to be part of this community. And you and Elaine have done like this is the time I butter you up. You guys are the ones that just like I had no idea what to. I just showed up and I was like, okay, like is there Gatorade? Kind of thing. Like that's like, oh great. There's like but you guys, to call it a family, it seems so like simple that you guys genuinely care about your runners and your racers, and every time we come out, it's a blast. I mean, it's like, you might be having the worst day of your life. It's like, hey, kind of like, just kind of like, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't trade in any of it, and I can't thank you enough for what you've done,
That's very sweet. That's very sweet. It was funny to me. Obviously it was a few months back at this point when I realized, because I know you all each individually, Elaine and I know you all each individually in your stories over the course of races, right? And we obviously talk about you all and we know different personalities, but it was funny to me when I realized that you guys hung out outside of races. And I was like, oh, they all know each other. And because I don't see you guys out on course. I'm not seeing your experiences out there. Like, obviously you guys would talk to each other, but that did not click in my head for the longest time. Yeah. And I was like, oh, how did they know each other? And I was like, oh, duh, because they're spending hours on a trail together. Like, what a dummy.
Well, there are, running clubs where it's like, the only thing I have in common with some of these people is that we run. Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, like that's what we got, but like with Cuss, it's like, no, I like there's certainly like, there's personalities that, you're attracted to, and that, we even though we live on polar opposite sides of the city, or, suburbs, like we find common grounds and we make time to just running, yes, but also like catching up, getting diner food, going rock climbing, and because, these are the kind of people, the fact that they run is just one thing about them that I like. They are good, honest people. And I think, the ultra community really brings out like a humbling nature in people, because like you said before, it's like, y'all are gross. Like, it's like, you see people at just their absolute, at the bottom of where they can be physically, spiritually it might be defeated, but you watch this like redemption arc, and you see people grow like right in front of you, and it just speaks to their character. And it's like, those are the kind of people I want to spend time with. Yeah. Those are the kind of people that I want to surround myself and to really bolster my life. That's where again, as if for folks that have never run an ultra, just go and volunteer and get to know some of these people, because they really are just incredible people. So.
It is an interesting thing, and I'm just like kind of reflecting about this, about the ultra running community. It's like there'll be people like you'll be your first ultra. So you show up and you don't have ultra running friends yet, right? But you show up and it's your first ultra. But if you've done one ultra, after that, you start to have ultra running friends, because it's such like an odd situation to be in with another adult, to just be with another adult for 5, 6, 20 hours.
Yeah.
It's like we don't do that with any other friends, right? Like no other friends am I hanging out with for 20 hours, while we're all getting sweaty and gross and disgusting and feeling miserable. Like it's like a weird situation that like it creates friendships so quickly, because you're just getting to the core of who everyone is in this situation. Like, let me go ahead and see you at your worst and you feeling absolute shit or puking on the side of the trail or whatever it is. Let me go ahead and have that experience with you. And so it's like me, like, I know I could go back to people that I've run races with 5, 6, 7 years ago. They would remember who I was. We could totally have a chill conversation. I could, I could be like, oh, I'm in your city, and we could hang out. Yeah. Because it's not a friendship where like, we have to know every single thing about each other. Or like we have to but it creates this connection with another human in such a quick, forced environment. And then if you're in it for a really long time, you just have like these amazing friendships.
Totally. And that's, you just joke, like you get to totally skip the small talk and racing.
Yeah.
So
it's gone.
It'd be really quiet. Like, so do you guys believe in God? Like,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Let's get to the heart of things.
It's my textbook nature to overshare, but I noticed that, when I met a friend of mine, Blair McCormick, at DPRT, and I saw him again. He just crushed kettle. He did his 100, and we were talking, and it's like I came up to him the first mile, and I was like, "Do you mind if I talk to you?" And it's like, because some people they'll put the headphones in and be like, "Sorry, hey, gotta go." I was like, but he's like, "Yeah, I know, go ahead." And then 18 miles in, we're telling childhood stories. He's telling me about his, he's talking about his professional development he's going on, telling about, that time that, I peed my pants in, Boy Scouts, I was in like second grade, we're sharing all the stories. And it's like, I've known this guy for, 4 hours, so
It's so funny. It's so funny. All right, Paul, what is like a big dream goal or race or whatever that you would like to accomplish within the ultra running space?
I mean, I would love to do it, but I'd love to do Western States. That's
it's the big one. It's the big one.
But also, I would love to do. I would love to put on a race one day. To be honest with you,
I love that.
I think, and that they know that's something that we were talking about. Like, what would you like to see more of? It's like, definitely like promoting the sport, promoting the races. So definitely start a race, not a Samosa stumble. Sorry, Craig, but I would rather run 100 than ever do this again. Sorry, Craig. Shout to Craig. Shout to Craig Woods.
Shout to Craig Woods, the genius behind the Samosa stumble.
So, but something that I would love to see, and we talked about this more, is I would love to see more people who like to run, try trail runs, because I'm not saying that all road racers are very stern and pace driven, but I mean that's the essence of the sport. Like, we're going for time, but I think if we can encourage some shifting, from ultra runners to try road racing and vice versa, I think we promote like the beauty in the sport, and to show that it's like, someone once told me, like, ultra runners are slow. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, that's like saying that all road racers are fast. It's like, it's not true at all. It's like I think we get so much further by just being like obscenely positive, encouraging in the sport, no matter what, no matter where you start. This is your first 5K or this is your 100th. Like, I mean, I look at somebody like Kevin, Jason, incredibly strong, Alessandra, these runners that are very strong. the kind of people you'll ever meet. And that's the kind of people like I want to attract to the sport because they're out there. And so that's what I would love more of. So.
I love that. I love that so much. And now that I know that that is on your radar, now it's on my radar and I'm into it and I'm here for it and I support it because it's so crazy. Like one, there's the statistic and I'm probably like fucking it up somewhere, but like only 1% of people in the world even run a marathon, right?
Yeah.
One run a marathon.
Right.
And then if we get into the ultra marathon, like it's such like the tiniest little nichest little thing. Like there's no other sport where you go out and compete with the professionals. There's no other sport where that's really happening, right?
Yeah.
Tiniest little niche little thing. And then like people get upset because it has grown. It has grown. It's grown since I've been in it. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that because the people that are being attracted to it are good for the sport. It's only good for the sport.
Agreed. Yeah.
Like,
totally agree.
It's only good for the sport. And so I think it still has so much more room to grow. And I think it has so much room to grow in the Midwest, in our area, coming from a place where like there's really old established races in the South. And there's maybe like one race up here that's been around as long in our direct area. Like there's so much room to grow in the Midwest. And I'm like, yeah, like get more cool people to put on races and enjoy the bureaucracy of it. And you're a project manager, so you're going to be great at it. And I love that, like, yes, please grow it. I think, for me, I have zero desire to put on a 100-miler. It's not a distance that I personally enjoy. So, and I don't want to be out there all day. I like you guys, but I'm like, ooh, that is a time commitment. But if someone else wanted to put on a badass 100-miler, like I would support it. I would volunteer at it, So I think there's so much room for it to grow. And I love that you have that little like yearning in it because like it's not hard. A lot of dummies do it, dummies put on races all the time.
Well, yes, and I think that, I mean, like you said, like our location, I mean, there's a lot in the South Chicagoland area. I mean, there's great trail systems around, I think we just, a little bit of planning. Because again, it's like, oh, it's boring. I don't want to run we're not saying you run a straight line on the Prairie Path because that's what I do.
Yeah.
Because I live right by it. But
I know, I see your little Strava map. I'm like, I love his little straight line. It is so nice. That little diagonal straight line that you got.
A little Great Western Trail. But there are trail systems out there worth exploring. And I think, whoever, I mean, what you just said, like any gatekeeping at all is just
so stupid.
like for what? Like it's like so I have to run a certain pace or I have to have a certain number of races in my belt to be considered for this. Like what? Like this isn't some like weird, like secret society of like fraternity. Like
no,
who cares? It's like I like some of my best friends I met through this, and I like, and if I would have been prohibited from doing that, like that's crazy. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met any of these people. And so, like, for those of people who are listening who are gatekeeping, knock it off. You knock it off.
I don't think those people listen to my podcast. I don't think I attract them. But if they are listening,
I'm coming for them, man. Yeah. So.
I love that so much, Paul. Oh my goodness. Paul, it's so funny. It's because like I remember you coming out to Childish. If I'm being honest, I remember your parents more because obviously I spent more time with them that day than I did with you. I spent a lot of time with your parents that day and love them for it. But I didn't really get to know until you came out and volunteered a couple of times. And I was like, oh, I like Paul. He's a good guy. But really one of my favorite memories about you is Juniper just adores you. Juniper just thinks you're like the coolest dude in the world. And you're just so sweet and kind. And I love that you have found our community and that you're part of it. And I'm excited to see what all you do. I mean, you're just like a badass runner and you just crush it. And like, you're so low key about the whole thing that it's hilarious. And that you'll come and do a dumb samosa stumble, which I was just like, I need you to come. Could you please show up? And then you did. And I appreciate that about you because I did not stay long. I was like, I got to go. I'm 6 months pregnant. I'm out of here. You guys are stupid.
Way to phone it in, Allie. It's like,
I know. It wasn't even like pregnant. I know.
10 pounds samosa.
Yeah, just no big deal. But I just love that you're just like up for whatever and like that you found a community because it definitely is like we're lucky to have you.
So thank you. And Juniper, whenever they like grab my face and
I know.
It's like, hey, what's this? Like, this is a mustache. We're like, yes, please stop.
Yeah, please stop.
Like,
Just straight
face,
to it.
face. No, I just, again, like, there's any chance you can get involved in this, like, just voluntarily, like, if it's Craig Woods' or, you know, Allie Gregory's insane ideas of like eat 12 or 13 little Debbies and run around Loyola
And it was so cold
Park.
that day.
Oh God, it's terrible. It's like, I mean, like that, or like Childish or Timely or Michelle's races or Remule. Like, get out there and, like, I mean, I swear, like, I can't stress this enough. Like, these are the kinds of people that I mean, personally, I love being around, and I think this can only bolster the sport by getting people interested. It's not like these aren't just people out suffering in the woods for, you know, hours on end. I mean, like, you can enjoy it. You can make this as hard as you want. I mean, but I really do want to see more people involved, and I think just making a little step from like, hey, I ran a marathon to a 50K. I mean,
Don't do what Paul did is explicitly what we're saying, which actually a lot of people do what Paul did. It's a trend. It's a trend for sure.
Just skip the 50K and go to 50 miler. I mean, it's I am nothing if you know, poor judgment, but no, it paid off, and I regret nothing, you know, despite all those, you know, those stumbles, you know, no pun intended, but I really do love this stuff, and I appreciate you so much, Alec. So.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you're gonna, like, I'm already hormonal enough being 6 months pregnant. You will make me cry. So we're not gonna do that. Paul, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I'm excited. I'll be seeing you soon enough, I'm sure. And yeah, thanks for coming on, Paul.
Thank you, Alec.